So 17th, we'll chant a few stanzas starting from 17th stanza, chapter 5. तद्बुद्धयस्तदात्मानः तन्निष्ठास्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिम् ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः विद्याविनयसम्पन्ने ब्राह्मणे कविहस्तिनि शुनि चैव श्वपाके च पण्डिता समदर्शिनः इहैव तैर्जितः सर्गो येषां साम्ये स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समं ब्रह्मा तस्मात् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थिताः. So 17th verse, all of these verses are talking about attributes about a person who is soaked in Jnana Yoga, who is soaked in knowledge, who in some cases he talks about somebody who already achieved the, the level of complete realization. And then he does also talk about, people who are on that path. So here the importance therefore is given about knowledge and also what are the attributes of such a person who is soaked into knowledge. So that's what the 17th stanza talks about, is it gives us two, three key words that we can all resonate with. Tat, tad buddhayaha, the first one, right? Tad buddhayaha is how it starts. So tad buddhaya means what? Intellectually, somebody is constantly thinking about him. Him in what kind of context? That I am at the core of my existence, that person, that Purusha. So this person is constantly reflecting in his own intellect, right? So therefore, he's he's constantly spending a lot more time inside, right? Even though he's working in the world, with like all of us, he constantly realizes that, I am what I am deep inside. So he's constantly, therefore, that a thought reminder that awareness is fairly soaked into this person. That is Sadbuddhaya. Then Tadatmanaha. Tadatmana is what? A person who, rather than, a lot of these words, a lot of these will have similar meaning, but they come from a different angle. So rather than externally focused, with body, mind, and intellect, right? With a lot of, externally spending a lot more time. He identifies himself with, you know, with the larger aspect of himself in. So like we see, right? Namaha versus Manaha. Manaha is always dwelling outside. Namaha is about going inside. So he's in the Namaha space in everything that he does, whether it is chanting, whether it is knowledge. So the key thing in all of this, remember, is that both the Buddha Manaha is a person is learned, but it's not bookish knowledge. It's not that he or she has got a lot of intellectual understanding about Vedas, Vedantas, etc. He's a practicing person. So he's also got practices that he or she's been doing. So he enlivens that part. Like that learning, he enlivens it. It's integrated into it. Wisdom is soaked in. Then Tannishta. Tannishta means what? A very firm conviction. See, sometimes we all have this thing, but then something shakes up, some emotions come or some tragedy comes in our life, you know, things go for a toss. Belief system is not that strong enough. So this person has a very firm conviction that cannot be shaken. So whatever happens in his life, it's all the glory from Ishvara. It is all his blessing. And the people that I deal with, my relationship, my people, my situations, whoever they are, wherever I meet them, they are all made up of love. I am also made up of love. They are made up of love. And when I see it from that angle, even if there are certain things that come that may not be, comfortable from an emotional perspective, I realize that that is just a temporary aspect of that person, right? His mind is not steady, could be. So the firm conviction is at the root of it is what keeps me going in terms of interacting with people. So externally, people will come with different attributes. Some might be a complaining mind, some might be of a sattvic mind, rajasic mind, tamasic mind. Question is how do I deal with them? So that's what these three uh, things really talk about. Firmly embedded, not to be shaken. But the root of it is all what knowledge. And the second aspect of it is what it's not a theoretical knowledge, it is practical embedded knowledge. So on that, such a person, how does he deal with, all the situations outside? A classic example is taken in the 18th verse. And it's contrasting. See, sometimes when you do contrasting, that is when you meet somebody, it's all, hunky-dory with you, no problems at all to deal with it, right? It's only when we have to deal with certain contrasting aspects, how do I deal with it? So here he says that, Samadashinaha is the word that is used at the end of that stanza. What does Samadashina means? Having an same set of eyes or same set of perception when he or she sees these different attributes. See, who are those? He says a Brahmana. Brahmana means what? Somebody who's sattvic, somebody who's knowledgeable, somebody like a saint, like a guru. And then he talks about Gavi. Gavi means what? Gavi means a cow. Again, sattvic, but it's an animal now. Hastini, elephant. So if you see, there's a sattvic aspect of it, there is a rajasic aspect of it, and then Shuni Chaiva, a dog, and then a dog eater. You see how from the subtlest or somebody who's very noble of a Brahmana to a low level, that's how the society sees people who are eating dogs because they are so tamasic in nature and outcast, as they would call it in society. A saint doesn't see it the same way. A saint sees at the inner core of them, all of them have one beauty, all of them. It is just that due to nature, due to circumstances, due to impressions, whatever, each one of them have come in a certain body, have come in a certain set of emotions, and they're displaying it. But I look at something much beyond it as a saint. That is that samadashinaha. That means what? Having an equal eye. When I say equal eye, the eye is just a mechanism to see or mechanism to interact. What does the mind do with what you see is what is referred to here. So, so it is like this, right? If we look at this whole society, so the reason this is taken is just to give an example of the society that we deal with. So society, even within human beings, we have fine contrasting people on a daily basis that we meet on a regular basis, right? The question is, how do I deal with them? Now, so similar to maybe a dog or an outcast there, even there are people categories, right, of very rajasic people, people who are very arrogant, people on the other hand who are very sattvic. The question is, am I able to accept all of them? So it starts with acceptance. Before even I look at inside that, they are all made up of one. So here the key thing is that it is not to say that, we are going to, what you call, we're going to, that it just comes down to respect, right? In all of these cases. So on the other hand, how do I behave with a dog? How do I behave with an elephant? How do I behave with a cow? Will be still based upon respect to that animal. I don't go near a dog which is barking, which is very ferocious, and say, oh, love, and hug it, at the risk of it biting me. So I still pay all the attention to what that other person is. In this, let's say, if it's even as a human being, but a person who is a criminal, how do I deal with them? I still show that respect. There's just the fact that I don't get carried away by what that person, or in this case, an animal is doing. That's all there is to it. So that is a that so so it is like this, right? I think we took this example in the last class, right? Of looking at our own self, our own body. Own body is like a universe. We don't sometimes realize it. We have all contrasting organs, isn't it? An eye is very gentle, very soft to touch with. You have to pay a lot of attention, just like you would do to a baby. On the other hand, my leg, my hand, I can be rough with it, right? Even if it gets hit, I just would have to put a, not so the case with an eye, to go to the doctor. So as gentle as we, so in society also, we interact with all such class of people, right? Somebody who's very gentle, you have to pay different kind of a tactic dealing with them. And then we have some people who are very aggressive. Now the question is, how do I deal with it my day-to-day life with my own body? Something gets hurt in your leg. Now, by organs wise, each of them are separate. A hand is separate, a leg is separate, eyes are separate, mouth is separate. And yet, whenever something happens to one part of the body, whatever associated organs are necessary to give it a solace, it automatically happens. Eyes are, inadvertently scratched, but it's getting reddish in nature. Automatically, what do? We take both our palms and we massage it, apply water, whatever is necessary to to console it, right? Can I have a similar mindset also in the society when I deal with people who have contrasting nature compared to me, right? Somebody who's, like the Chunucheva Shopakacher, right? Or in this case, eye versus leg. Well, just similarly, if you just think the society along the same measure of physical nature that we are talking about in the human body, we find the same thing in terms of emotional attributes also outside. Can I deal with them the same manner, show the same love that a hand would show to make sure that a leg that got bruised is paid attention to, putting bandage, right? Putting Dettol, whatever else that we do. That is called, that is what is called Samadarshina. Or we can also see Samabuddhi. So if you see all of these stanzas, what are they talking about? Is just having, and why do we, why is this also required from another angle? If you see, right, let's say we get carried away somebody we are not able to accept, right? And we have learned this before. Guruji said this so many times. The person who is today my best friend can become my worst enemy tomorrow, and vice versa, isn't it? So how can I take for granted somebody that, is my best person, he'll always cling on with me, blah, blah, blah. It cannot change. So coming to terms with the temporariness of certain, relationships, temporariness of, of the relationship in terms of the emotional show that happens between two different people. Coming to terms itself, once we realize it, then we know that we have to be balanced. Don't get carried away by excessive love, or don't get carried away also by somebody who's showing a very contrasting emotion to what you are, and you're very uncomfortable with it. And everywhere we have come out of things, right? Like just take a small example, right? I don't know if it is still there. If you go today to go to a medical shop, right? You find medicines, you find biscuits, you go to a bakery place, you find biscuits all in different animal shapes, everything. As kids, they love it. I'm sure we also, if we had them, we'd have loved it. As you grow up as an adult, are you still looking for a vitamin, multivitamin in different animal shapes? Come out of it, isn't it? So therefore, we become mature. We are able to come out of those things. We are no longer clinging to the fact that, my medicine should be like this or my bakery item should be like this, etc. Right? You're willing to see a normal tablet. Uh, Same thing with people also. Everything changes. Okay. So that is the Samadarshina part. Now, if you go to the 19th stanza, again, here it talks about, so the 17th and 18th stanza talks about, the attributes and then the viewpoint of a saint in looking at all the people in the world. Here he also talks about, in 19th stanza, is he uses the Brahman here. Person Brahmanya means somebody who's really come to terms, right? So here he takes an example, right? To take an example of even a hardened criminal, let's say that comes in front of you. And then, you know, am I, a person who's hated by the society, but he happened to come in front of you? And then there is, on the other side, somebody, who is very calm, settled, like you, comes in front. So one is a very defective person, according to society. And then there is somebody who is a compatible person, the other side. How does a saint look at each one of these? The reason this hardened criminal has to be taken is because, it's probably one of the worst things that's possible, right? You actually get scared. You actually are, at that time, security, whether your life is in danger, all of these comes into the picture. How does a saint? Does he cover and he run away from there? Or does he confront the person with all the love and see the magic happen? How that criminal, so-called criminal, also melts down in front of that loving saint. And these things have happened everywhere, right? How Valmiki, got created, right? The Rakshasa was killing people left and right when he sees Narada. Does Narada even get, upset, happy, with him or worried about his life? He just asks him very pertinent questions, settles them down, and then the rest is history, how Valmiki got created. So therefore, come to terms with, it is like this, right? A river, when it goes from its original source, right? And before it reaches and merges with the ocean, it goes through a lot of turbulence. But constantly it knows that one day I'm going to merge with the ocean. And ocean is where I'm going to be merged, meaning I'm totally, connected. There's oneness there. That oneness is what that all looking at. Through that phase, I'm going to go through a lot of turbulences, lot of blockages, barriers. Each of those experiences, a saint knows better. That is the essence of these verses. Okay. For the 20th verse. A lot of these verses, if you notice, will have very similar essence. But then, Vyasa Krishna puts it in different, comes from it from different angles. The gist may seem the same. But then, when you either from an example perspective or from a different perspective, you bring it in, it then gets into our head. Because these are very subtle topics, right? It's not very, gross thing like physics, chemistry, something that you learn, you can just put it in your head. Not at all. Being subtle, it has to be approached from different angles. And for some, one example might sink in very nicely. For somebody else, that may not sink in. And that's the reason for so many verses in this particular chapter that deal pretty much with the same. Ultimately, we all have to want to reach one, should be one goal of merging with the ocean. What are the, what is the path? What are the attributes? What is the attitude? This is what is covered left and right and all these answers. Okay. So the 20th verse now. So here he's talking about the outlook of the realized person. Outlook means what? How does he look forward to things? So here, similar to that one, right? It, it, he realizes that the body that I have, right? We have there's something called referred to as upadhis that we talk about. Upadhis means these are all your senses, sense organs, mind, intellect, all of these come, and they are all imperfect in nature by design. The reason they are imperfect is because it's all run by gunas. When it's run by gunas, there will be certain things that will definitely be not right from from the standpoint of being perfect. There will be imperfections. So if I realize that I'm made up of attributes that in my prakriti that therefore imperfections are not the same, there will be imperfection. How can I not realize the same thing with others as well that I'm dealing with? I have imperfections. First, let me accept that I have imperfections. I also realize that others also have imperfections. So if I come to terms with the fact that, especially where this whole thing comes into the picture is relationships, isn't it? That's where the crux of the challenges we all face is with relationships. Imperfections are there to stay, right? Unless you meet some very, very noble person, totally uplifted person, realized person altogether, right? But realize that that is just a fraction of today's society, 0.001%. Rest of us, we're going to deal with people who have, you know, so-called waxing and waning attributes, day and night, imperfections in their behavior, in their talk, etc., etc. So here, outlook of the realize is what he realized that these situations, people, relationships, right? They are there. They can destabilize any person. Any seeker can be destabilized by that. The question is, what is it that makes you have a strong foothold and not be deterred by this? Because in the path, it is said in spiritual path, right? Things are not hunky-dory. We go through it and we will get through challenges. How do I deal with those challenges, right? Am I able to understand the root of it with which I can come back, root from a knowledge standpoint? Or do I get carried away by the circumstances, by the situations, by the person? And if I do that, then I get trapped. I go, it's like the snake and ladder thing. You go to the top and then you come back down. Again, you have to climb up slowly and steadily up. Now, when we have a guru in the path, the guru does a lot of things for us. He takes care of things. He makes sure, first of all, you don't fall down that badly, even if you fall down. But he also makes sure that we get the message. Gurus also test us. Gurus also want to make sure, we learn from our mistakes. And the only way we learn from our mistakes is when we fall down. Going through such experiences where we are not able to come to terms with certain things when we fall down. So that Tadbuddhayaha, Tadatmanaha, Tannishtaha, Samadarshinaha, if you just understand the crux of each one of those, terminologies, understand them, um, no, then the person who's the path always looks at not the outer periphery of whether it is the cloth, the skin, or the talk, wishy-washy talk, but sees what is inside. So ultimately here, what are we trying to do, right? And in this whole spiritual path, we are trying to not gain anything, but we want to lose things. We want to get rid of things, unwanted garbage. So it's like the delete button that we have on our phone, delete button to remove WhatsApp messages. We want to delete things. It's not that we're gaining. Knowledge is there, one can say to gain, but that gain is to actually remove things. It is actually not to gain anything. Because by gaining, we are not going to get anywhere. So the more we empty ourselves of all the garbage, that is when we are actually growing. So in all of this, you know, yeah, I think enough said on these things, right? So let's go now to 21st verse. Yeah. बाह्यस्पर्शे प्रसक्तात्मा विन्दत्यात्मनि यत्सुखम् तद्ब्रह्मयोगयुक्तात्मा सुखमक् सुखमक्षयमश्नुते ये हि सम्पर्शजा भोगात् दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्त कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः. So here he goes back to some basics that we've all learned earlier. Non-attachment to external contacts, right? Bahya sparsha sattatma. So why is it brought up again here? Again to, rekindle our mind. This is one of the key things. Why is it that we always get caught on, attachment, sorry, when we get caught on all these emotional angles, somewhere there is a sense of, aversion, rather dvesha is completely there, right? Likes and dislikes at a deep level. When that is there, that influences how we deal with people, how we deal with relationships, situations, etc. Here he talks about one other beautiful thing. If you notice here, he says, Sa Brahma Yoga Yuktatma Sukha Makshaya Mashnute. This person, once he has come slowly out of this, desires or attachment for them, he focuses on what? On meditation. And so if you now notice here in these last few stanzas, ending going till the last one, the word meditation has been ingrained in our head because sixth chapter is all about meditation. So this stanza talks, it's the first seed for meditation is brought up here. So a person who is in this path realizes there's a lot of ananda, right? Jnani's ananda comes from what? Definitely, it's not that he enjoys outside things, etc. Not a problem. But for him, the joy comes from his higher nature, being in his higher nature. Contrasting to what an ajnani, he is still in the external sources for happiness. And jnani looks at internal source for happiness. And this he says, Sukham Akshaya Mashnute. Sukham, Akshaya. That means what? Endless happiness. It is not a happiness that I eat by eating one gulab jamun, 5 minutes I'm happy. Afterwards, I'm tired of it. This person sees a lot longer happiness. It lasts up for the whole day. Like we all find, right? When we do our kriya, when we do our sanyam, etc., it carries forward and it makes it entirely wonderful. That that is what he's referring to you. So the person who is slowly coming to terms with how to deal with situations, not getting caught on, not getting attached to things, starts dwelling with the knowledge also into meditation. So 22nd verse. What was the 22nd verse? Here he brings the same angle, right? But from a different way. He just says that attachments means what? Somewhere there is a sense that, if I spend some time with such and such a person or such and such an object, it will give me happiness. It will give me peace. Here he says, gives a very interesting, gives a very contrasting thing. What do you say? Anything that is born out of context, the happiness part is very minimal. Even if I get pleasure to start with, it will result in pain in the long term. Something to which, to satisfy the tongue, something to satisfy the stomach, for that matter, anything, for that matter, sense organs, we try to over satisfy, make it over happy with all the pleasures outside. Sooner or later, that same pleasure that we experienced earlier becomes a pain. Then you start regretting. A wise person realizes the temporariness of this right away. Right? It's not that he's inert. He's, offer him sweet. He's not going to say no. But he's going to also measure in terms of how much he or she takes. Right? And if you look at that particular example, let's take our own tongue, right? The tongue is very beautiful. It's not just designed to take only one taste, isn't it? Its taste buds are so wonderfully designed that one part of the tongue is for sweet taste, one part of the tongue is for bitter, one part of it is for astringent, sour, so that, especially let's say on a New Year festival that we all celebrate, Yugadi, etc., when we take all of these different things, we're able to relish each one of them. And the reason it is given on that day to eat is to say that life is exactly like what you are eating now, a mixture of all of these different tastes. So the taste that you're putting in your tongue, similarly, your life is also going to be different experiences. Some might be sour, some might be happy. Come to terms with the fact that that is reality. So pain in the, pleasure in the long term, pain in the long term. Pain in the short term. What is pain in the short term? That somebody might say, that I have to do these practices. I have to do meditation for 30 minutes. I have to close my eyes. 30 minutes, I can't watch my pleasurable TV because I have to meditate. All of these things might appear as pain, but becomes an everlasting, peaceful happiness later on. And just like the tongue, even when you look at, if there's a rose plants all over, and especially in spring, roses start to blossom in the plants. If I have to pick a rose flower, at times I have to go through certain thorns which will prick me. Now, do I just say, bash the thorn? I say, yeah, thorn is there for a purpose, right? And if I take that same thorn and reflect it in my own life, there are thorns that are going to come in our way in the path of spirituality also, right? Rather than hating the thorn, accepting the thorn for what it is and learning out of that is ultimately what, a seeker, a true seeker will do. Not blame it, not hate it, etc. All right, 21st verse. Oh, sorry, we did, okay. So So what are we seeing in 21st and 22nd stanza? It is about all these external elements that come in the way of the path, right? Attachments, pleasures, etc. that are being highlighted. The 23rd stanza, yeah. Shaknoti haiva he sodam prakshadira vimokshanath kama krododbhavam vegam sayukta sasuki naraha yontas sukontarat योऽन्तः सुखोऽन्तरा रामः तथान्तर्ज्योतिरेव ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं ब्रह्मभूतोऽधिगच्छति. So here it talks about one more thing, which is what raga dvesha. Similar to the attachment, etc. That was about here, it brings the aspect of desires that dominate one's life. If a desire is dominant, right, what that leads to, all desires also are the source for anger. We have talked about this a lot, right? They go together. There is no other source for anger other than a desire being, stalled or somebody putting a barrier to your desire getting not fulfilled. So realizing that these are there and hence what I should do, be watchful about my desire. And even if I have a desire, look at a larger goal, look at a bigger picture rather than looking at I, me, myself, my son, my daughter, my wife, etc., etc. Can I see it from a little, you know, wider perspective? Just like, right now the people who are in this particular aircraft looking at the moon, when you see the Earth from there, it just looks beautiful, right? 10,000 feet view of, of the Earth versus a 5 foot view of the Earth, people. Very different. You see only calmness. You see so peaceful. Everything is there. On the other hand, if I'm face to face with the person, I see it differently. So having a larger goal, right? Something that I can do to either for the society, or for the country, or even for your own upliftment. That is a better desire to have rather than a desire to get my senses, body, mind, intellect all happy. Something beyond that. So here he talks about person who is, so here he says the person who's come out of this, he can get liberated as in this body right now. So sometimes we say moksha, moksha, after somebody dies, let them attain moksha and after death. So Guruji also has said all saints say this, you can attain that moksha right now living. Why wait? Why wait for 30 more years till you live and then only say I'll get moksha? Can I be? What is moksha? Moksha is not some superlative thing somewhere, right? Guruji said somewhere where you feel tranquil from within. You're centered. You're full. The awareness level is extremely high in the center. Absolutely not deterred by things that are happening outside, and you're fully also in the path, doing all the practices that have been prescribed. So he says, such a person, sa yukta, sa sukhi naraha. He is a yogi. He is a happy man, or a person who is in peace. So the same thing is built on the 24th verse also, where he says that a person who's happy within, who rejoices because of, him dwelling more time from within, realizing that that is where the true happiness and peace is, he attains moksha, right? So, so there are terminologies that are used, right? One is Jivan Mukti, and so you can just say it as one Mukti is when I'm living, I'm still in the body. Another Mukti can come after I come out of the body, where I go to higher, lokas where it leads me to more peace from inside. So the 25th verse now. लभन्ते ब्रह्मनिर्वाणम् ऋषय क्षीणकल्मषाः चिन्नद्वैता यतात्मानः सर्वभूतहिते रताः. So here he talks about stages here. Now, very beautiful, very logically explained. You see this one. So how does one get to this moksha? He gives a chronological aspect. So there are four attributes that are given here. The first one that we can all relate to, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha at the end of it. The person's intent is to see the welfare of all people. That means what? This person is soaked in seva. Even right when he's thinking, when it's about how can I, through either through knowledge or physical seva or counseling, however you look at it, this person is looking at the intent is welfare of other people, smile on other people's faces, service mentality. That is the first. Now, what happens when you do that? Like you and I have learned it. When I start doing things for the outside society, my ego gets a lot of cleansing. I see that, there is a larger purpose in life than the run-of-the-mill things that I'm doing every day. So the second that comes in naturally is Kshina Kalmashaha. You see that word. What is Kshina Kalmashaha? Um, Kshina Kalmashaha means somebody whose mental impurities have diminished. Now, what is mental impurity? Tell me. Shama, Dama, right? Attachment, raga, dvesha, kama, krodha, lobha, all of these, right? All of these come under. So by doing karma yogic practices, which is what was referred to in the first one, right? Which is, welfare of all being seva mentality, comes under karma yoga. So cleansing is happening, purification is happening to the mind. And slowly I'm also soaking into knowledge. So my understanding of what life is all about is now better understood. It is not about running after money or running after possessions or relationships. That ignorance is slowly getting refined. So rather than worldly pleasures, I see that there is a lot more beauty in life if I spend time dwelling inside. So Karma Yoga in accompaniment with knowledge and also practices is leading me to one step next level. Then comes what the third attribute is yatat manaha. You see, right, in this particular verse. Chitnadveta yatat manaha. Yatat manaha means what? Seeing oneness. See, typically when we see things, right, there is a duality in the world, right? We all realize there's a duality in the world. No two people look at the same. No two people's fingerprints are the same. So nature, God has made sure that each and every one of us are unique. Even at a physical identification level, let alone our mind, our emotions, our physical attributes, our behaviors, everyone is different. It is given. But then a person who has come into this realizes that, those are all outer layers. Inner crux of it, as I go deeper, it's like, opening a present. There are 10 different boxes with 10, you open the wrapper, and then there's another wrapper, there's another cover. Inside, you see a beautiful diamond. The covers might be different, but all of them at the end of it inside have got a pure shining diamond. And how does it happen for this person having gone through a mental cleansing, in the with a guru coming into the picture? This person slowly comes to terms with how to live a life, right? That, yeah, he is different from others. Everybody is different, but can I see oneness in all of them? That's Samadarshinaha that we talked about earlier. Then comes the fourth part of it, which is what Chinnadvaita. Chinnadvaita means what? Has now got a best of view, undeterred picture of who I am. Is it I am such and such, female, male, such attributes, certain degrees, certain qualifications, right? Or am I much, much beyond that? Somebody who understands my true nature. That notion has come into this picture. So if you see chronologically, doing, a combination of yogic practice, sorry, karma yoga, then knowledge and practices with knowledge soaking and with the guru in the picture, this person has come to this ultimate level of Chinnat Dvaita. Right? So this Chinnat Dvaita is what ultimately this person is, you know, two, one is, has a full perspective of this one. And these attributes are needed for that sage or saint that we talked about earlier. So if you see here, he's essentially taken some aspects of what is there in chapter 3, chapter 4, and then we've done chapter 5 and put it all into one place. The reason he's doing it is that he wants everybody to become ready for chapter 6. And maybe not everybody is ready to get into chapter 6 because they are not fully cleansed. So he's again reiterating what has been said in different stanzas earlier, but it all put together in one place. Do it in this order. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Okay. So 26th verse. Kama, yeah, we chanted this, right? Kama krodha viyuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vattate viditatmanam. So we reiterate the same thing. Very, very similar message to what he says. What is he saying here? A person who is, strongly embedded in this path, he sees that I'm totally free now. Like, even though I am physically restrained, mentally restrained certain ways, I'm free from the standpoint that I see that there is a inner force that is taking care of everything for me. They say that people who have come to this level, they don't even worry about when's the next food gonna come. They don't worry about whether things are taken care of by them because nature takes care of such people because you're merged with the divine. When you're merged with the divine, why will the divine not take care of each and every aspect of your life? Right? I remember Rishi Niti Pragyaji, one satsang somewhere he was referring, we were someplace. He says, I just barely take two pairs of clothes, no cash, maybe one water bottle with me, one notebook pen. And I go from place to place, attend satsangs, go to people's houses. I don't know, everything gets taken care of. I get picked up, food is taken care of, people give me clothes, dhotis, churida, whatever, pajama, kurta, whatever I have to wear. I don't have to worry about anything because, you know, I don't look at therefore that, therefore I don't worry about what's coming next. Food is automatically taken care of. My comforts for morning to night, everything is taken care of. So one is merged with the ultimate. You don't have to worry. That's the ultimate security. We falsely believe that security comes from my possessions, my house, my billings, my relationships, etc. The ultimate security is him only, no one else, because he's the only caretaker. If there's a caretaker of caretakers, it's only him. We may have all intermediate caretakers like a prime minister, president, a corporator, blah blah blah, etc. So this person, here he again reiterates one thing, and about desires, what they do. Guruji, I remember, had one particular thing which resonates well. His desire, you know, kills joy. And all desires, what do they aim for at the end of it is joy. So why does desire kill joy? Because you are in the same place where you are, let's say there's a desire, it gets fulfilled. Is it that I feel totally resonated, uplifted, jumping up and down? I'm at the same place where I was before that particular desire got fulfilled. So it is not, it's a superfluous feeling that we all get that, by desire we want to be happy. Yes, momentarily it gives happiness. But I am in the same mental state after the temporary happiness, like what I was before. That's why it says desire kills even that inner joy that you have. And people in mistakenly think that, desire, why should I do it? Because it will give me joy. That is what is it. Okay. All right. 28th verse. Yeah, sorry, 27th. Yeah, we'll chant 27, 28 verse now together. Spashan kritva bahirbahyaan चक्षुर्चैवान्तरे भ्रुवोः प्राणापानौ समौ कृत्वा नासाभ्यन्तरचारिणौ यतेन्द्रियमनोबुद्धिः मुनिर्मोक्षपरायणः विगतेच्छाभयक्रोधो यः सदा मुक्त एव सः. So always at the end of every chapter, there is a prelude. There are certain verses that are going to cover what's coming next. And we have seen this in every chapter. So what is coming next? All about meditation. So we're not going to get into the details of these two stanzas, but you can see what is he saying. He's saying focus your mind between the eyebrows in the 27th stanza. And also moderate the breath, incoming breath and the outgoing breath, moderate it, make sure it is equal, moving through the nostrils. And then the 28th stanza, he says that when through this meditation, if I'm able to come out of, full cleansing from desire, fear, anger, I am fully liberated. Sada mukta eva saha. Forever liberated. So I'm not going to get into this because anyway we're going to dwell into the sixth chapter. It's coming up from next session. But you can see that these verses are all indicative of what's coming in the later chapters. So we'll chant the 29th verse with the end part. Bhoktaram yajnatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam yatva mam shantimricchati. So build on the 28th stanza, that he now talks about himself. He says, I am all the things that you do, sacrifices that you do, yajnas that you do, austral practices, everything. I receive all of them. I am the friend of all beings. I am the caretaker. A person who comes to terms with this, he or she attains peace. Right? So again, a lot of these are going to come in the later chapters, so we'll not get into this. We'll close it. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Sannyasa Yogo Nama Panchamo Dhyayaha.